As Kenya marks World Wildlife Day, conservationists are warning of shrinking wildlife spaces despite significant recovery efforts for threatened species. Climate change and human expansion are reducing natural habitats, increasing human-wildlife conflicts. Wildlife corridors, land strips connecting separated habitats offer a solution.
As conservationists, you have to be looking at these trends, relate them with climate change, relate them with people, human wildlife conflicts, and think ahead. Because you find that maybe you are enjoying seeing a lot of elephants or buffaloes. But at the end of the day, what does that mean? If you are in an enclosed ecosystem, the population will have to figure out one way or the other. And who are they going to meet outside? The farms, retaliatory attacks, pirates. So you think ahead, open new corridors, connect your conservancy with others.
These corridors allow free animal movement, reducing conflict with farmers and sustaining population growth. Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, located 260 kilometers north of Nairobi, has been expanding to link Mount Kenya's forests to rangelands in the north.
So maintaining healthy corridors is one factor. And then proper monitoring of numbers. How dynamic are your populations of every species? Is it growing? How is the climate issues affecting that kind of movement and that population?
Lewa's elephant population rose from 350 in 2014 to over 450 in 2024, while rhino numbers have also grown. However, rising populations strain ecosystems, making habitat expansion crucial.
And moving on, revelers in colorful outfits and makeup fill the streets of Belo Horizonte for the Peña de Pavao de Krishna, or Krishna's Peacock Feathers, which is a street carnival that blends Afro-Brazilian and Indian spiritual traditions. Since 2013, it has combined music and spirituality, featuring folk rhythms and references to Indian deity Lord Krishna, while raising awareness for social and environmental causes.
Is growing among undocumented immigrants under President Trump's executive order. They face a catch-22.
They must register, but as Inland Empire reporter Leticia Juarez explains, if they comply, they could risk deportation. If they don't, they face fines and jail time.
For undocumented immigrants in the U.S., a new wave of uncertainty looms as the Department of Homeland Security rolls out a federal registry. The mandate requires anyone without legal status to register or face criminal charges and fines.
Being undocumented in the United States is a civil offense, not a criminal offense. And this is what the Trump administration has continued to do with his rhetoric on immigration, is to blur the line between those two.
Advocates like Carlos Perea with Harbor Institute for Immigrant and Economic Justice says the registry adds another layer of fear.
Not knowing really what it's going to look like for the next 4 years for their families.
According to the U.S. Citizens and Immigration Services webpage, the registry is mandatory for everyone 14 years and older. and who have been in the U.S. for 30 days or longer. Individuals must provide fingerprints and a current address. Registries like these aren't new. In 1942, under the Alien Registration Act, Japanese Americans were forced to register during World War II. Many were later relocated to internment camps.
So we see this trend of documenting and then displacing or removing. So this really falls in line with this legacy of turning the immigrant into a threat.
Under President Trump's executive order protecting the American people against invasion, the registry is the latest effort to crack down on undocumented immigrants.
All that we know is that they're in the process of creating something, and they're asking people to start preparing for this by creating an account at USCIS.
For immigrants, the registry is a catch-22. If they comply, they could risk deportation. If they don't, they face up to $5,000 in fines and jail time.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says Arab leaders have endorsed Egypt's post-war plan for the Gaza Strip. Speaking at a summit of Arab nations in Cairo, al-Sisi said the reconstruction plan would allow Gaza's roughly 2 million Palestinians to remain in the territory. The leaders called on the international communities to support the plan. Their goal is to counter Donald Trump's plan to take over Gaza and resettle Palestinians in neighboring countries. Karim El-Gawari is following all of this from Cairo. Karim, what is the Egyptian proposal that was adopted by the summit?
Well, we still don't have a copy about the details of the plan, but it's a reconstruction plan over 5 years worth $54 billion. Not clear who will foot the bill, possibly the Gulf states, but there's no commitment yet. There is going to be a Gaza investment conference in Egypt to be held in the next weeks. On the political side, there is the idea that the administration of the Gaza Strip will be run by a committee of technocrats that will oversee the reconstruction. And this committee of technocrats will be created per decree by the Palestinian authorities in the West Bank, but the Palestinian Authority itself will then have no say in the daily work. There's no time frame of the whole plan, and there remain a lot of open questions, of course.
One of the questions, the most pressing one maybe, is that Hamas are, for all intents and purposes, in charge of Gaza. What does this proposal mean for them? I'm assuming they were not at the table when this was approved. Where do you see them factoring in? Where are they supposed to go under this agreement?
Well, they were not at the table, and there's clearly an attempt to sideline them. Although all the Hamas officials already said the day after in Gaza can be only decided by the Palestinians, and it wants to have a say what kind of technocratic committee is formed. Hamas expressed in the last weeks some readiness to give up some of its administrative power in the Gaza Strip, but it's rejecting all attempts to disarm. Its official says that this is a right that is not negotiable, although disarming of Hamas is not part of the Egyptian plan.
Yeah, sounds like a major stepping stone in the way ahead. This, Karim, has nothing to do with Donald Trump's Riviera plan of displacing Palestinians from Gaza. How are the leaders gathered in Egypt planning on navigating the Trump-Netanyahu factor?
Well, basically what we saw in Cairo now was a show of Arab unity, the rejection of Trump's idea of the displacement of the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. In a way, this Arab unity is even going much wider than only about the topic of the reconstruction and displacement of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Every speaker in Cairo mentioned the Israeli violence in the West Bank, where in the last weeks 40,000 Palestinians were displaced from their houses. There are, of course, especially fears in Jordan about the displacement in the West Bank, as there are fears in Egypt about the displacement in the Gaza Strip. And the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, who the first time took part in an Arab summit, complained about the Israeli incursions into his country. So in a way, all those issues, the West Bank, the incursions into Syria and what's happening in Gaza are bringing the Arab states together. Now they have to, of course, convince the rest of the world about their plans to rebuild Gaza for the Palestinians.
No easy feat. Karim El-Gawari, journalist in Cairo, thanks for that.
Arab leaders on Tuesday endorsed Egypt's post-war plan for the Gaza Strip that will allow its roughly 2 million Palestinians to remain, in a counter-proposal to U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to depopulate the territory and redevelop it as a beach destination. It was unclear if Israel or the United States will accept the Egyptian plan, whose endorsement by Arab leaders announced by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi amounted to a widespread rejection of Trump's proposal. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declined to comment. Tuesday's summit in Cairo included the Emir of Qatar, the Vice President of the United Arab Emirates, and the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, countries whose support is crucial for any post-war plan. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also attended. Addressing the summit, el-Sisi said that the plan preserves the right of Palestinian people in rebuilding their nation and guarantees their existence on their land. Israel has embraced what it says is an alternative U.S. proposal for the ceasefire itself and the release of hostages taken in Hamas' attack on southern Israel on October 7, 2023, which triggered the war.
ये अफ्तारी का वक्त का तकरीबन 6:30 या 20 मिनट का हम 7 बजे का टाइम होगा कि ये बनू में एक के बाद दिगर 2 धमाके हुए। उसकी वजह से यहाँ के जो इर्द गिर्द इलाके हैं जहाँ पे ये धमाका हुआ है वहाँ पर घरों की छतें, दीवारें और दिगर जो भारी अशिया है वो गिरी है, जिसकी वजह से भारी कैजुअल्टी जो है वो हमारे DSU अस्पताल में आ रही हैं। अब तक जो कंफर्म इतलात है वो उसके मुताबिक 5 जो है हमें डेड बॉडीज मौसूल हुई है, जबकि 10 अफराद जो है वो ज़ख्मी हालत में आए हैं, जिसकी इमरजेंसी में जो है इलाज जारी है।
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took the stand again on Tuesday in his ongoing corruption trial for alleged corruption. The testimony is another low point for Israel's longest-serving leader, who also faces an international arrest warrant for alleged war crimes in Israel's war in Gaza. Netanyahu will answer during his court appearances to charges of fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes in 3 separate cases. He is accused of accepting tens of thousands of dollars worth of cigars and champagne from a billionaire Hollywood producer in exchange for assistance for personal and business interests. He is also accused of prompting advantageous revelations for major leaders in exchange for favorable coverage of himself and his family. Netanyahu denies wrongdoing, saying the charges are a witch hunt orchestrated out to topple his living room.
We now shift our focus to an espionage plot that has left Israeli authorities scrambling for answers. Israeli police and security agency Shin Bet arrested an Israeli citizen who allegedly attempted to sell classified nuclear secrets to Iran. That's right, an Israeli man was caught selling nuclear secrets to Iran. Let that sink in. Israeli authorities reportedly apprehended a resident of southern Israeli city of Beersheva on charges of espionage. The suspect reportedly initiated contact with Iranian intelligence via social media platform Telegram, offering to sell sensitive information about Israel's Negev Nuclear Research Center, home to the Dimona nuclear facility. Israeli investigators reportedly found that the accused had carried out multiple missions on behalf of Iranian handlers, including photographing restricted locations and transferring data. According to Israeli police, the suspect allegedly represented himself as someone with direct access to Israel's nuclear program, hoping to profit from selling classified data. Last month itself, authorities arrested the accused and disclosed that he had received a $1,000 payment in digital currency for his cooperation. In a separate but related case, Israeli security forces arrested a 26-year-old man suspected of spying on behalf of Iran. According to Israeli media, the suspect was instructed by an Iranian handler to spray paint specific locations in Israel
in exchange for money. Investigators also discovered that his Iranian contact encouraged him to gather intelligence on military bases and even the residence of Shin Bet chief, although the accused reportedly never followed through on these. But you see, these are not isolated incidents. Last month itself, Shin Bet and Israeli police arrested 2 IDF reservists accused of selling sensitive military intelligence to Iranian operatives. One of the suspects, a former member of Israel's Iron Dome missile defense unit, allegedly provided highly classified information, including a video showing the system in action. According to reports, this security breach occurred just weeks before Iran launched a massive missile strike on October 1. That attack involved more than 180 ballistic missiles, with several reportedly striking Israeli air bases and other sensitive military sites. Over the past year, Tehran has reportedly been increasingly trying to recruit Israelis, often luring them with financial incentives. In December last year, authorities detained nearly 30 individuals suspected of involvement in Iranian espionage operations. Many of these cases reportedly began with seemingly insignificant and small tasks that gradually evolved into full-fledged intelligence gathering and even assassination plots. In October 2024, 7 individuals were arrested for allegedly gathering data on 2 IDF bases that later came under attack by Iran and Hezbollah forces. Serious questions are bound to come up. How many more Iranian spies are still operating undetected? Why has Israel failed to prevent such moves?
To support the federal government's efforts, Ontario will also launch its first round of retaliation. Starting today, LCBO, the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, will begin removing U.S. products from its store shelves. And as the exclusive wholesaler, American brands will no longer be available in LCBO catalog. Meaning other retailers, bars, and restaurants in the province will no longer be able to restock U.S. products. This is an enormous hit to the American producers. Every year, the LCBO sells nearly $1 billion worth of U.S. wine, beer, cider, seltzers, and spirits, including more than 3,600 products from 35 states. As of today, every single one of these products is off the shelves. Also, starting today, all U.S.-based companies will be banned from taking part in government procurement. Every year, the province and its agencies spend about $30 billion on procurement, alongside our more than $200 billion plan to build infrastructure. U.S.-based businesses will now lose out on tens of billions of dollars in revenues. They only have President Trump to blame. I'm also urging all 444 municipalities to do the same, and I'm thrilled to see some are already stepping up. For example, Mayor Patrick Brown in the city of Brampton and many other cities. As part of this government-wide procurement ban, we're going one step further. We're ripping up Ontario's contract with Starlink. It's done, it's gone. We won't award contracts to people who enable and encourage economic attacks on our province and our country. Alongside federal tariffs and the measures my fellow premiers are bringing forward, this Team Canada's opening response. We also need to be ready to dig in for a long fight. We need to be ready to escalate using every tool in our toolkit. That includes surcharges or even outright restrictions on the critical minerals and electricity we supply to the United States. The critical minerals and electricity they depend on. Today, I'm writing to every senator, every congressman and woman, and the governors from New York State, Michigan, and Minnesota, telling them that these tariffs persist. If the Trump administration falls through on any more tariffs, we will immediately apply a 25% surcharge on the electricity we export. We will not hesitate to shut off their power as well. I'm encouraging my fellow premiers to follow suit. Friends, I know you're worried. You're concerned about the future. I want you to know I will fight like I've never fought before. I will do whatever it takes to protect you, your families, and your communities. We are watching the real-world impacts of these tariffs, and we will be there for you. We will spare no expense to protect Ontario workers. We'll retrain impacted workers for new jobs. We'll retool companies for new customers and new markets. We'll reshore supply chains to bring good jobs back home. And we'll rebuild roads, highways, bridges to keep people working. Led by my friend Premier Tim Houston, we're breaking down costly internal trade barriers. And we need to cut the red tape to end the delays that are blocking projects with enormous economic potential like the Ring of Fire. Canada and Ontario did not start this fight. We want to work with our American friends and allies, not against them. We said we'd never start a trade and tariff war with the U.S., but you better believe we're ready to win one. Friends, I've always been straight up with you. The coming days and weeks will be hard. Businesses and families will feel the pain of this needless fight. But together, we're going to stand up for Canada. We're going to get through this more united than ever before. Together, we're going to protect the true north strong and free. Thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario.